Welcome to the She Births Show, a place to inspire your birth, evolve your parenting, and help you live a life you love. I'm Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the scientifically verified birth education program, She Births. I'm also a mother, yoga teacher, doula, author, and speaker. At She Births, we have supported thousands of families around the world for over 13 years with our unique program, and our vision is to make birth better for every family around the world so that everyone experiences a beautiful birth no matter what unfolds. Not only do we help people have beautiful births, but we also give them the skills and the philosophy to enjoy pregnancy and make parenting easier. As well as our world-class birth ed, taken either face-to-face or online in our app, we also have a free pregnancy guide designed to help you feel calm, connected, and inspired as you and your baby grow. We have a doula matching service, the perfect way to ensure you and your partner are completely supported throughout the whole journey. And we have our Soul Mama Circles, which are the perfect postpartum network to help optimize your mindset and design your life in parenthood. Remember, if you like what you hear today, subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. If you're a parent, about to be one, fellow health professional, join us now for an inspirational deep dive into topics with experts around the globe. We hope you enjoy this special episode. I absolutely loved talking to this wonderful woman, Alison Brahe Daddo. Her honesty and generosity is so refreshing. Alison is a screenwriter, a podcaster, teacher, and former model who appeared regularly on the cover of Cosmopolitan, Dolly and Cleo magazines in the 90s. She grew up alongside a generation of Australians. Now she's all grown up and has gone through menopause, an experience that she shares in her new fantastic book, Queen Menopause Finding Your Majesty in the Mayhem. Menopause changed Ali's perspective on life, on relationships and body image. It made her realise the implications of being silent, of speaking up, of consent, of boundaries, and the importance of feeling, of being, and of anger. She reveals how all the shifting within her gave birth to a new sense of self and her life. In our conversation today, we talk about menstruation, pregnancy, birth, sex, menopause, and how the lessons, opportunities, and gifts can be so similar. Wherever you are along the journey of womanhood, this is your wake-up call. It is time to practice deep self-awareness and real self-care. Pull together a team of practitioners that can help you in the way that you want and invest in your health of body, mind, and soul. Remember, we cannot stay busy forever, ladies. And as we are continuing with our Rise of the Feminine season, stay tuned at the end when Alison shares her vision of what the world would look like with feminine power and wisdom restored. I highly recommend Alison's book so that you too can become the queen of your life, whatever stage you are in. You can find Alison on Instagram at Ali Daddo, ALIDADDO, and her book is available everywhere. I highly recommend it. I hope you enjoy. Ali Daddo, welcome to the She Births Show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so exciting to squeeze you in and to grab you before you're off on your amazing, extraordinary retreat in Bali. Thank you for fitting us in because everyone needs one of those after the pandemic.
They sure do. Everyone needs one. Every person needs one. Yeah, definitely. Especially us women, I feel like.
Totally. Absolutely. So come back and report and tell us all about it because it does sound very cool. But today we're going to talk about your amazing book, Queen of Menopause. And did you come up with the title? How did that happen?
Look, Yeah, I did. I had magical, miserable menopause for a while there, because I started with just Queen Menopause. I was like, I'm just going to do I'll Queen Menopause, because right towards the end of the book, I talk about how I want everyone to feel like they can claim themselves as queen of their menopause, so that you are Queen Menopause. And so I was like, that's the name of the book. I love it. I want people to feel empowered by their menopause. It's great. And so I came downstairs and I said to my kids and my husband, I said, I've got the name of the book. It's Queen Menopause. And they kind of looked at me and and my daughter went, do you mean you're the queen of menopause? You're saying you are? And I was like, oh my God, no, I don't want people to think that I'm the queen of menopause. I want people to think that they're the queen of their own menopause. So I actually chucked the title out again, even though I told the publishers that was the name. And so I was going off this magical, miserable menopause title, and they came back to me and they said, no, it's Queen Menopause. And I told them that story, and they said, no, we can do a byline and it's going to make sense. And they said, you might need to explain it a little bit, which every now and again I've had to explain it, because people have gone, so you are the queen of menopause.
I know, I put the of in. I knew it wasn't that, but I said that too. It came off my lips when I did it.
No, it's fine. I don't mind. I honestly don't mind.
No, but that's it. I mean, I think you've just explained it beautifully. You know, you want every woman to be the queen of her own experience and her body, and to feel empowered through the process. And that's why, to me, it's really obvious. You've gone and written this book. You've shared your heart and soul and all your bodily kind of wildness and miseries and magic and, changes. So honestly, and I think that's what touched me the most about the book, is how, authentic and how honest you are. And I think there is a huge amount of power in that sharing. And there's so much I really loved about the book, and there's lots of things I want to talk about. I suppose that's the first thing as well, was the anecdotes from the other women was so helpful, like what they say to other women and what they would say to partners, like the simplicity, but the profundity of like, listen to your body. This is a change for the better. Breathe, communicate with your partner, like do everything you can to dispel the shame around it and go for this ride. I mean, there were so many things. What were the most common things you think women came out with, wisdoms that they wanted to pay it forward with?
Yeah, it was really for so much, particularly, as I said, that, in the book a lot too, it was particularly that post-menopausal years that women really wanted other younger women to know, as I wanted to know, and now I'm postmenopausal, that you will get through this. There is a lot of help out there, and that the postmenopausal years can be the best years of your life, and they can, and you do get this postmenopausal zest. But certainly, like when it comes to sort of your partners, I think that the common theme was very much, it was like, the communication and doing your own research on menopause, like having your partner come with you to the medical, if you have any sort of medical appointments, or, for so long, men have paid no interest in what menopause even means or what it might mean to their wives, or, so it was really about having that communication and having your partner understand what you may be going through and how challenging it is, because it can deeply affect relationships if it's unspoken.
I'm just like blown away by the idea of inviting your partner along to your medical menopausal appointments.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's fully like birth. Like, really, we're going to have to create a business called She Menopauses or something like that. Right? And,
that's right.
Yeah, like that's really profound to include them. Gosh, they're lucky, aren't they, to be involved in all our amazing female rites of passage,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, because it is similar in so many ways. You know, of course, you're not birthing an actual baby, but you are going through some majorly physical changes as you do in the birthing and the labor and just being pregnant. And there's the mood swings, the hormones are going crazy like you would when you're pregnant. So understanding all of that as a partner can only benefit not only you, but your wife or your girlfriend or whoever you're in partnership with as well. So if you're married, if you're with someone who's going through perimenopause, you are in it together. It shouldn't be a solitary thing.
Wow. So in a sense, again, it's like birth, because like you go through the 9 months and you go through this really intense labor experience, and you can go through it, disconnect. Often people use like the She Births course as this time to really get on the same page and have conversations. And men and partners always say how much more involved they are now knowing what's going on. They feel like part of the team. They're not going to be useless in the room. And at the end, you get to be a parent. What a gift. But you get to go through these potentially longer kind of cycles of nature again, the ups and the downs, the contractions, the expansions, riding the waves of pain and pleasure over a longer period of time. So it's a bigger test potentially in some ways, but what you get is a rebirthed woman at the end. And I think for birth, partners get that opportunity to connect with that rebirth of themselves as well into a new identity. And I think this is what it sounds like, you've created in your book, this opportunity for people to embrace it as a rite of passage. I like how somewhere you wrote it as a call to freedom. What does that mean for you, like menopause as a call to freedom?
Look, I think for me it was freedom from a lot of the ways that I thought about myself. There's a physical freedom in the sense of, okay, you're no longer menstruating, so you no longer are thinking about that. Your body is not going through each month going, am I pregnant? Am I not pregnant? Am I pregnant? Am I not pregnant? Am I having a baby? All that stuff, like it's gearing up to, am I going to be fertilized? No, I'm not going to be fertilized. So all of those workings in the body are no longer happening. So you're using that energy now in a different way. So I feel like, and in that there's kind of a freedom in that, like to not be thinking about that kind of resource of where you're thinking about all that. Yeah, is being placed in different ways now. And I heard this said the other day that estrogen specifically is they call it sort of the nurturing hormone. And as that drops through your perimenopause and menopausal years, it doesn't drop because you're not caring for yourself anymore. I feel like it drops in the sense that our outpouring of care to others, that kind of becomes a bit more internal in a way. And I found that very much so. I have been a nurturer, my whole life. It's always been about others and what do they need. And it just became very clear that I actually wanted to care for myself first and foremost for the first time ever. And I've been told to do it a million times by a million different people. You need to put yourself equal first. I was like, yeah. But what do the kids need? And what does my husband need? And what does the house need? And what do the dogs need? And for the first time, it was like, wait a minute, I actually do want to know what I need. I do want to feel that in myself and go, what's up with that? What do I need to do with myself today or for myself today that's going to make myself feel good? Because I finally felt deserving. I finally felt like I wanted to. And there was so much freedom in that. And there's the freedom of not, for me, again, I had to really work at this and I'm still working at it, but the freedom of not being so concerned about the size of my belly or the lines on my face. It was really more about how I felt, who I was in company with, what I was curious about. It just became so much more of a deeper experience of myself rather than this external idea of oh, well, I've gone from a size 8 to a size 14. Okay, that's going to be okay with me as long as I'm healthy, you know. So a lot of that freedom of worrying kind of went to the wayside as well, which was great.
Wow, it sounds awesome. It sounds like, you know, it's liberation, but a lot of those freedoms that you just expressed, you know, we touch upon them, don't we, in pregnancy and birth? Like we start to relate to our body as this. I've had friends, you know, who've become pregnant, you know, have had severe eating disorders prior, and they, you know, learnt to love their body and what they ate during pregnancy. And they've said to me after birth, you know, that just what my body has been able to do, I have so much honor and respect and care for it now.
Yeah.
But what I'm also hearing is like the connection between birth, between menopause, and potentially menstruation. I don't know a huge amount about menstruation, right? But I know a lot, obviously, about birth, and you know a lot about menopause. And I'm at the beginning. But all I can think of is I went to this lovely lecture once. You know Stephen Biddulph, the psychologist?
Yes.
Don't we love
him? Yeah.
Love him so much. And to hear him speak, you know, is such a gift. And I remember him talking about, you get this opportunity when your child is like between the ages of 2 and 4. And I know you're early childhood worker as well, teacher, between 2 and 4 to like set boundaries. You know, they're going through frontal lobe meltdown. You know, little boys are going through testosterone increases like 500%. You know, it's radical. And then, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I heard it when Leroy was like 7. I was like, man, I was just so bad at that 2 to 4. Like that just like was the hardest time ever. Boundaries, you know, really not my thing. Codependency was really my thing. 0 to 2, I'm like a master at, right?
Yeah.
I like you, like I nurture everybody, mother everybody. And so he said, look, don't worry, because the boundaries you don't set in 2 to 4, you get to do that when they're like 15 to 18. And he's like, you get another opportunity because they come back around in through the cycle and there's a meltdown again, and the frontal lobe and the nervous system and the hormones are changing and their EQ's just out the door. He said, but this time, you know, it's with the car keys. So it's a little bit different. It's not just throwing something in Woolies down the aisle because they want it and you didn't buy it, you know. So different, but that's what we've got here. Like the lessons you don't learn in birth, don't worry, girls, you're going to face them again later. You know, self-care is going to become the priority at some point.
So true. That's so true because, I had 3 children and I still didn't learn the self-care thing very well, at all, really. I mean, to some extent I did, you know, but very minimal compared to what I've learned through menopause. And, you know, I think if we can, I would love, and I know there are, you know, programs and we're much more available to talk around periods and menstruation than we ever were. But I feel like there has to be, you know, going back to how we deal with women or girls really getting their period and celebrating that, you know, if we're able to get our girls on that page and actually bring menopause into that conversation as the full circle of your menstruation. And you can celebrate yourself getting menstruation. You can celebrate yourself when you stop getting menstruation. I mean, if I had that in the back of my mind going when I first started my period, I wonder what that would have
it would have changed. I think it would have changed it completely. Yeah. I remember my mum was, and I think I've said it in the podcast because we've had a beautiful friend who runs like a shamanic midwifery and mothering program called Jane Hardwick Collins. And she talks about, you know, how we are initiated into the blood mysteries, into menstruation, is often a story that then gets, you know, retold in our beliefs and our perceptions of self during the birthing. And then it comes up again in menopause. So that belief, I remember from my mum, was just like, oh, you've got your periods. Yeah, it's gross. It's horrible. Like being a woman is a burden.
Exactly.
And then the shame comes in, right? Yeah. And it's this epigenetic kind of shame, because I don't think it's just the menstruation story. Like I think we collect a lot of pain and
beliefs and suffering really through, our womb experiences and going back through the nervous systems of our parents. It doesn't start with me, it starts, generations back. But absolutely. I think that's one of the most important things about your book is that you're helping to dispel shame. And I think shame around our bodies and the way nature functions through us and just the generally being a woman. Even in Ayurveda, when I go to really crazy Panchakarma retreats in India, when you've got your periods, you have to stay in your room and not touch anyone. You're not allowed to see the doctors. And you're meant to see them every day, except when you're bleeding. You're dirty,
Yeah. What does that tell you? What is that? Yeah.
And it's just, well, the body's purifying, but I'm not dirty because my body is purifying.
It's doing its natural thing. Exactly. And and the way that periods also are, our period just cramping, that the thing that we are sort of forced into having to bear the pain each month. If we're a young woman that has severe period cramps or endometriosis or whatever that is, each month we know we're going into pain. We're going to have to deal with it, and it's sort of like you can't keep complaining about it because it's going to be every month. So you learn constantly to sort of go, oh, I have to push that aside. I have to deal with that pain. I have to deal with that. I have to ignore that. Here it comes again, month after month after month. And I feel like that's a real setup as well. Once we get into menopause and we are having some chronic pain, we are having all these crazy symptoms that we've never had before. And we've sort of been trained in this way of ignoring so much of our pain, and particularly when it comes to our fertility and our uterus and any sort of, that kind of area of not sort of being able to take care of ourselves well enough, or not being able to talk about it because who wants to hear about that? Yeah. So I think all of that bleeds, pardon the pun, but, bleeds into how we deal with our menopause and how we deal with ourselves around that as well.
Yeah, totally.
And now for a quick break. It is so normal during pregnancy to experience those niggling worries and doubts and those fears about what is coming. I have supported thousands of women bringing their babies into the world, and I have observed so many feel a deep sense of guilt, a quiet kind of disconnection from our babies and from the joy of growing new life. And this fear goes along with it that we're just not doing enough. Does this sound like you? Go to shebirths.com/calm to download a short 7-minute meditation that will help you feel calm and connected. Even when you're at work or traveling, even when you wake up in the middle of the night, this meditation is perfectly designed to help you come back to yourself. That's shebirths.com/calm to download a little connection for yourself and for your baby.
And, you can't talk about that really in a 7-minute GP consult.
No,
you just can't. So I'm like, I was clicking away when you're like, naturopathy is really what's worked for me, because that's like, I was fully going into perimenopause in the last sort of 6 months. And I was like, what is going on? 6 weeks apart, 3 weeks apart, hemorrhaging bleed and all this kind of stuff. And so integrative doctor naturopathy, tweaking a few things have come back into a rhythm and a balance, and I'm not bloated for 2 weeks, and feeling this sort of heavy depression before the period as well. So, basics like magnesium levels and anemia and certain herbs, St. John's wort or whatever it is for that individual person. I mean, so tell us a bit about what you utilize to help you through.
Yeah. Well, as you say, I just have always been naturopathic. So that was I didn't even think about kind of going anywhere else than my naturopath, who I adore. So, but I will say, people think that I'm very anti-HRT, which I'm not. I'm just saying what worked for me. because I know HRT has been a lifesaver for millions and millions of women out there. And so I'm very pro what works for you. And if that's HRT, great. If it's HRT and a mix of natural herbs, awesome. If you just want to ride the wave yourself, great. But for me, the thing that helped, well, I actually saw two people. I saw a lady who is a hormone specialist, and so she immediately had all my bloods done to see where my thyroid levels were at, where my cholesterol and all of my vitamins and minerals, what was I lacking in? So that was the first thing I was able to get a full workup of that and see what I needed more balance with. But with my naturopath, not only is she just a divine human being, she will spend an hour and a half with me.
Yeah.
And she will spend an hour and a half with me talking about everything and going over, well, what else is going on for you? She's a kinesiologist. She's a healer. And so she's an iridologist. So she was able to work on all these other levels that were so beautiful, and particularly for my mental health. And that's where I found I needed the most support. So not only was she giving me, support naturopathically, but she was giving me things to say to myself. She was giving mantras to say, and cold showers, and do this oil that might help calm your mind, and and that level of care is what I really, really needed. And because I haven't experienced your GP giving you, as you say, the 6-minute diagnosis. I know I've spoken to a lot of women that have had that experience. I've also spoken to a lot of doctors who, and particularly this one lady who was a professor of hormones, and she said that the medical profession really needs to change when it comes to menopause support for women, because we are just being flicked off with an antidepressant, or with just being said, oh, it's just menopause, or whatever it is, and it's not enough time, it's not enough care, and we're not losing a limb, we're not, but we are struggling. A lot of women really, really are challenged by a very natural experience, but can come with a lot of health challenges. And so I think that, as I say, I didn't experience that, which I'm really grateful, though it seems to be a common issue that does need.
I mean, I don't think it's just the medical profession as well. I think it's women. I'm thinking of friends that I have, and I mean, I live more in a rural setting, and up here we take things slower. And we spend time like in conversation and reflecting. Whereas a lot of my friends who are high flyers, they have bigger corporate jobs, they don't have the time. They're working so hard. They don't have the space. So, I'm thinking of one friend at the moment who went and was just sick of having a period. So she's just on the pill. She just takes the pill now. She's nearly 50. Yeah. And, that was, and, antidepressants, and just takes what she can to get through. But in my experience, if we're doing things just to get through, we have to also be told that there are risks to those things, and that we tend to catch up with this. It's like taking money out of the bank. You have to pay it back at some point. I've even spoken with naturopaths, and they said like they notice such a difference between the women, and I'm obsessed with coffee in the morning. The women who drink a lot of coffee and the women who don't, and how well they seem to traverse menopause. And maybe it's adrenal functions or something like that, So there's a lot to be explored, and I think there's a lot to dive into. And I think if culture is now starting to see birth as a rite of passage, potentially we can also see menopause as a rite of passage that affects us on a somatic and a psychological, emotional and spiritual way, and cultural way. We're being influenced all the time by culture. And I really loved in the book how you talked that symptoms were often less in like Asian or Japanese cultures potentially not just because of, say, a diet difference, but actually due to a perception of aging and the Mayan culture, the
Mayan culture.
Yeah, tell us about all that. That's so fascinating.
I love that. And it made so much sense to me that, you've got the cultures that, are very, respectful of aging. And when women age, they are held up as the wise women. Those cultures prove to have a lot less symptoms of menopause. That's just 1 + 1 = 2. It's like, of course that makes so much sense that if we were in the Western society, if women were exalted to wise women and held up as an example of this is someone who knows so much, and we should be, we should be very caring and kind and honoring of these women as they age, rather than, oh my God, she's gotten old, look at her, how fat she is, and how can we fix this disease of aging? Then of course I feel like the menopause symptoms are going to be a lot easier to handle. That's just a body-mind experience that just makes so much sense to me. Yeah.
Having a more positive attitude to what is coming and to the changes that are occurring, reframing that instantaneously within the subconscious. And, that's what we're trying to do with childbirth education and I see, some of the women that don't do that preparation or that work right up to like 40 weeks, they might physiologically get through birth, but psychologically they haven't prepared for the identity shift of not achieving daily things and having a linear kind of structure to their world, a sort of cyclical surrender of messy home status, and then it's not but that's because we don't value the feminine, the motherhood journey as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's right. Women.
Yeah, I think that's a hard one I find to change within myself. Like, I've found my own, inner anti, discrimination against my own aging, and where the patriarchy lived inside of me as well. I just had to, it was just like, oh my God, that's what I've just been raised in, this culture of that this is bad and this is wrong and this is going up a size is awful, and like all of that stuff that to unpack. And it's sort of like with menopause, it was like you don't really actually have I felt like I didn't have a choice. It was like it didn't matter what I was eating or exercising, I just got bigger, and it was like, okay, I'm bigger. All right, what are you going to do? What does this mean? And all of the voices and all the things and people, and other women sending me diets, and other women saying, oh, go see this lady, she'll help you lose the weight. Like, that was immediately the thing that was the most alarming.
Starve yourself, basically, was the approach.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I want to feel healthy. That's what I want to feel. If that means I lose weight, great. If it doesn't, great. But look, that was the thing I was really aware of, was my own internal judgment. And it still pops up for me. It still pops up where I go, I look at someone else like in a tight dress and go, oh yeah, okay. Well, that'll never be me. I could never wear a tight dress. Oh, and I'm like, yeah, you can. You can wear a tight dress if you want to wear a tight dress. You just have a muffin top with it. That's all right. Who said you can't wear a tight dress?
That's
what
true,
law says you can't wear a tight dress?
That's true. It's like I really would like to get that Taryn Buffett on the show, who made the film Embrace, who's making one for kids. Because again, like we said, if we could have in the menstruation kind of circles and learnings information about the end, we should also include that as well, like how we relate to the body and the shame, and understanding that so much of our own mind dialogue is actually projected into us from culture. And of course we come up against it all the time. It's become, I see it all the time, women with internalized misogyny, but we all have an internalized kind of patriarchy. There's no way to free yourself 100% of that, because we're brought up in this culture that says, it's full of advertising and it's full of corporate greed, and it's saying, buy this, do this, it will fix you.
Yeah, that's right.
Save you, like I will save you. Outside will save me. I feel like that's the biggest patriarchal imprint in my psyche anyway. Not having that sovereignty, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And then you still see what happens in America, where there they are with anti-abortion laws back again. You know, they've reversed. You just go, what is happening? You know, so it's not like it's thing where, you know, we want to be moving forward with this, and then you see that and you go, holy crap, they've gone backwards. So it's alarming in some ways.
Yeah, it is. And it's a lot of power play going on over there. But now that you are officially a wise woman.
Yeah,
you know, what would you say a lot of people in this audience are maidens, you know, about to go through birth? Maybe we should talk about birth a little bit, or, you know, what would you say as a wise woman now, mother of 3, and having gone through these rites of passage, not just one, not just 2, but actually 3 really big, innately programmed and awesome, brings you to your knees kind of rites of passage, you know?
Yeah, well, at 52, looking back on those experiences, I've never been more proud of myself than going through the labor and delivery process. And all 3 of them were very different. And when I was also, you know, doing birth assisting in America as well, I always felt the same way. It is just the actual science of how our bodies work to even get pregnant is miraculous. Then to carry that child and to grow another human being inside our bodies that is created from the love of you and your partner. I mean, what is more magic than that? And then, you know, and if that, and however the body gives birth, like I always felt the same way. I assisted with cesareans, I assisted with natural birth. I assisted someone who adopted a baby that was addicted to crack, and she needed help with what to do with this baby. Each one it was just so incredibly honoring and beautiful and special in its equal way. Like there wasn't anything that was more, like whether it was hospital or natural, do you know what I mean? It was just, and I kind of was surprised by that in a way. You sort of think, oh, it has to be all natural, no drugs for it to be magical and special. It's just birth, and birth is so special. And so to be able to sort of have the knowledge of that as you give birth, to know that this is not everyone gets the opportunity to carry that baby and to give birth. And I just think it's just always been something that I've found incredibly moving and special. And I don't think there's enough magic and specialness around the birth experience. I think and I think I say in the book that when I got pregnant with my first baby, I just was shocked at how many horror stories people wanted to tell me.
Yeah.
It's sad. You know, I was like, wait, hang on a minute. No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to think about it in that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that's just like Googling menopause, right? Like what you see is all the negativity. That's what rises to the surface, because the human brain, you know, it takes consciousness to not entertain negativity. You know, one of my spiritual teachers like, never entertain negativity, you know, like, because you feed it. And it's like the ancient Native American thing, like, which one are you going to choose? You're going to feed the wolf of fear or the wolf of love?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it takes a spark of consciousness to simply start to question that negativity. And we're very, you know, careful in what we share at She Births, because even when there's challenge or trauma, which is a really important thing to share, we only share it when there's a resolution and someone's been able to express and explain how they resolved that and how they were able to work with their perception of that and the support and the care. Like resolving it is so important, rather than sharing negativity and trauma in a debrief. you know?
Yeah.
Very different to being able to educate and inform and share wisdom about the bumps that do come along the way. But I agree with you. All birth, no matter how it happens, is extraordinary and sacred.
Yeah.
So how were your birth experiences? Were you a birth assistant before you were a mummy? No.
I became a birth assistant after my first. So my first one was pretty much a 56-hour labor.
Nice.
It was a super duper long one. And I had done, multiple, I'd been in this birthing program and done all sorts of stuff. And
were you in LA?
Again, in LA, yeah. And still was surprised by, of course, the intensity of the contractions and thinking I'm ready. This is it. I'm ready. I am. This is right. Yep. This must be it. I must be ready to go. And sure enough, I'm like 1 centimeter dilated. And then, 12 hours later, this is it. This has got to be it. I'm still 1 centimeter dilated.
Yeah.
So I remember the moment so vividly with my first one. And I had a doula at the time, and I said to her, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And she looked at me and she said, you are doing it. You are doing it. And I was like, right. And then it's like everyone just left me alone for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the moment that I went deep, deep, deep internal. And I went, this is it, honey. You got to go inside. I think I'd been so focused on outside, and the timing and this and that, and what's, I packed the bags and all this external stuff. And sort of everyone fell asleep because everyone was exhausted. My husband, my mom, and the doula. And it was just me and the baby. And I just went, okay, let's just go inside. And I finally found that zone, I guess, as they call it, and let myself just open. And I just kept visualizing, the opening of the flower, the opening of my pelvis, just allowing the baby to move and relax. And so and when the next time I went checked, I was like 8.5 centimeters dilated. And and then she was born in water. So I had a water birth for her at a birthing center. And it was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And my second one, I did have him at home because I felt that I could do it at home. I felt after that experience, I was like, I do want to experience a home birth. And we had a birthing tub set up. I'm like, it's going to be a water birth again. Definitely was not a water birth because I just had someone massaging my lower back as I was sitting on a stool, and there was no way I wanted to get into the water. As you know, you
never know.
You make a birth plan, and then who knows what happens. Yeah. And that was just a beautiful, beautiful birth. That was just 10 hours and just incredible. And he was a really big baby, but he was just divine. Came out, was awake, and had his head lifted and looked around at the whole room. And that was gorgeous. And then the third one, I thought, here we go, another home birth. She had different ideas. So, and I knew something was different with her. She was really late. I was 2.5 weeks overdue.
Yeah.
And my contractions started, but they were weird. It just didn't feel quite the same. And I was like, okay. And I had a lot of people in my home at the time. I had grandparents, I had friends there. It was very chaotic around me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite get into the swing of the contractions. And sure enough, my doula was with me, same lady who I'd had all 3 times. And she said she listened to the baby's heartbeat, and there was no heartbeat. And so they called 911 over there, but called the ambulance, and she had me flipping side to side, and she got the heartbeat back, but it was very, very slow. Oh. And so I was a rush to hospital. But by the time I got there, the heartbeat was up again. So they just were monitoring me. And then there was no progression. Nothing was happening. The baby's heartbeat stopped again. About 20 doctors rushed to the room, flipped me side to side. And then they just said, look, we've got to get this going. We've got to get this baby going. And I was exhausted and really scared at that point.
Yeah.
And so I went, let's do it. So they gave me drugs to get the contractions going. And I had an epidural as well, which I never thought I'd get an epidural, but I was like, let's do the epidural. Let's do epidural and let's do all the drugs.
Yeah, you need the Syntocin, or what they call Pitocin over there. Yeah.
Exactly. So I pushed twice to get her out. I was like, this baby needs to come out. She's been through enough already. It was too much. So 2 pushes and she was out, and she came out screaming and cried for the longest time. Whereas my other 2 didn't. They came out, hi. So I was like, yeah, I know, honey, that was a little bit rougher than we expected. So, 3 very different experiences.
Wow.
And now for a quick break. Contrary to popular culture, She Births believes that childbirth can be the best day of your life. It is designed perfectly to be empowering, enriching, and bonding. An awesome rite of passage. Our childbirth education programs have helped thousands of families around the world since 2008, allowing families to not only feel empowered through education, but also connect with their innate birthing wisdom to create the best birth possible and begin their parenting journey with confidence. She Birth's unique methodology was scrutinised in university trials and has been published in the British Medical Journal for improving birth outcomes for both mother and child. I'd like to invite you to begin preparing for birth today. Just go to shebirths.com to discover our 2-day weekend face-to-face courses or access the online courses from anywhere around the world. That's shebirths.com. Create your beautiful birth with the world's only scientifically verified antenatal classes.
Do you think there was just a cord being the cord was being compressed?
Yeah.
And that was stopping that blood flow. Yeah. How old are they, the kitties?
So 26, 22, and 16.
Oh, wow. How many have you got at home still?
2 left.
2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's so interesting, you're talking about birth stories. It's so fascinating how it's played out. I feel like in their personalities.
Absolutely. That's my next question.
Like, my eldest, she's got a lot of anxiousness around her. That the firstborn, there's a lot of anxiety, and she's always looking for what might be going wrong and what's happening, and she wants to know. She doesn't like surprises, and she wants to have it all organized and figured out. And then my son is like River, the middle. He was like, yeah, I got this. This is cool. I know what I'm doing. Yes, it's fine. And just finds his way all the time. And then my third, she's the most dramatic child. Like, drama follows her everywhere. Like, constantly there's things going on, and she's just a hilarious, fabulous kid, though. Like, the most dramatic child. More dramas happened to her than the other 2 put together. So
we love her.
Yeah, it's really great to see that it just follows, from their experience so much so.
And I think, often when we start to look at these more subtle interplays of persona and birthing, in a sense, people start to say, well, me as a mother, I'm responsible for the imprinting of the child, but actually not. Potentially the soul of that child had a particular flavour. And that flavour created an atmosphere inside your own body which emanated into the psychosomatic experience, and this was also the birth it's their birth.
Yeah.
It's our rebirth. And so we have to kind of get that distinction that, and it helps me too, because, with Leroy's birth, it was in, I don't know how many hours, long one like yours, and, 2 centimeters, and then, needing an epidural and drugs, and now he's at that age where he's experimenting with drugs. And so of course it comes up in my courses, like, did I take the drugs in labor, and is that what's created? You know, there's actually a new book out that studied all of that, and it's a bit scary, actually, in all honesty, to read. But to me, it all sounds a bit too linear and a bit too simple to say that, to make that correlation.
Yeah,
because it's much more complex. But potentially, it's the soul of the child that arrives within us and almost generates that within our receptive bodies. Potentially,
that's really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
Again, you know, the mystery.
I know, which is what makes it all so brilliant as well. And so all that magic that's there about birth.
Yeah, that's right. And what would you say have been the greatest gifts of menopause to you, coming back to menopause? Because I think, like birth, we have learnings and teachings, but then it's only when you dive deeper that you find the jewels, you know?
Yeah.
What would you say they have been for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I'd mentioned before, it's really about the discovery of self-care. And I'd spent a lot of time feeling very lonely throughout my childhood and my life. You know, I could be in a room and still feel very lonely. And it had been sort of one of my plagues that has sort of haunted me for so long. And I remember feeling for the first time that I didn't feel lonely anymore. Like whether I was by myself, I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. And I remember going, oh my God, I feel it, that feels so much. It feels like I've given myself now. And that was that because of that shift in that self-care where I became just as important as everyone else. So I wasn't this left out little girl or this left out mother or this left out wife. I was someone I had included myself finally in the self-care that I really, really needed. And it was, I said to my husband, I can't remember the last time I said something mean to myself, either internally or externally, because I used to sort of, you know, berate myself for this or that, or what I'd done or what I looked like or this, that. And I realized it had been months and months that I'd actually not said a mean word. And that was just, I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. For a lifetime of, you know, internal cruelty, that voice had hopefully gone to sleep forever. But yeah, that was really, really amazing to have that experience. And look, it is something that I can't say that magically happened, because I did have to sort of reach for that. I did have to sort of make those choices at the same time. And I think that's the same with anything as well, you know, and particularly like talking about that postmenopausal zest and having the best years of your life. You do need to make that choice and make that happen for you. But I feel like if someone's telling you that that's a really huge option for you, then it becomes an option for you, you know? So
Totally.
If you're not told that, if you're not given that experience and told those stories, you don't know. You just think you're in this shitsville of menopause for the rest of your life. So I think those stories are just so important to hear.
Yeah, that adds purpose and meaning. And I love how you said reach for that. You still had to reach for that. And I think what you're offering is a different conversation around, you know, self-care, like self-care Sundays. I'm going for my mani-pedi. Like, does it really fill you up, you know?
Yeah.
Does it really? That, you know, some other woman who's losing her own imprint actually on her fingers by being in those, you know, chemicals all the time and washing your feet. Like, is that actually what is really the self-care, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's actually a big feminist conversation, that one. But yeah, like, so what is self-care then? Like, what is real self-care? Was it just doing the deep reflective work? Was it working through depression? Was it naturopathy? How would you describe real self-care?
And I think it's, I've been asked this question before, and yeah, exactly right. It wasn't anything massive. It wasn't like I started, getting my nails done or anything like that. It was just these little shifts in my brain in a lot of ways of how I felt about myself, and talking to myself in a much kinder way. The way I would talk to a child, and again, I've been told this: you wouldn't talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself. True. But finally, when I actually started doing it, when I would ask myself, what do you need today? What do you need for yourself today so you feel better or you feel okay? What would help you today? As I would someone else, I actually started answering and going, I need to just go for a bit of a walk, or I need to just lie down with a really good book, or I need to call my friend in America, or whatever it was, and actually taking the time to listen to what I need. Yeah. That was really it. That was really where I started, and that was really small, and it was really big.
It is. Well, yeah, that makes total sense now that you say that, because by asking, by inquiring, by the very nature of the challenge of the rite of passage itself, you're on a hero's journey. And so I think always the hero's journey of birth is arriving at a place of deep self-love. And that's the holy grail, actually, of the birth rite of passage. But, it's beautiful that you've just said that, because really that's what you arrived at too, like a deep place of self-love. And it's actually the shittiness of the experience and you having to just go, what do I need? In each moment, look after self, that creates the self-love. I love that so much. That's so rich and so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this season in the She Births show, we are talking about the rise of the feminine. And I suppose, feminine is defined differently, and it's hard to talk about the feminine without the masculine. But I always feel like birth is so much of a feminine, the she experience. The he is within the she, but it's in that surrender that we find our power in birth. So it's she births. She actually does the work. We just surrender into her, that sort of divinity. But she sounds different in menopause, and it's different for every woman. So how would you say, like, the feminine has awoken or is risen within your life? Like, how does it play out in your life?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think it's arisen in a way in self-reflection, and that's really what menopause did for me. And I didn't expect that. And that was once I started writing as well. I didn't expect to be, by the time I'd finished the book or writing the book, 48, 49 or whatever it was, and going, who am I as a woman? And looking back through my history of, who I was as a little girl, what was my menstruation like? How was that explored for me as a 13-year-old girl? What was it like, my first experience of sex? That I, talk about the sexual assault in the book as well. What has shaped me as a female? And who am I today because of all of those experiences? And in looking back and understanding myself from this perspective, I sort of saw myself, standing on a hill and looking down and seeing my history. I saw myself as much stronger than I thought I was, and with much more to offer than I thought I had as well. And that was partly from this career as a model and feeling like it was only important what I look like. And of course, that's also what we're told as women over and over again. It doesn't, as long as you're pretty, as long as you're not aging and blah, 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 so it was this sort of the feminine rise in me was like, I actually have something to offer that's got nothing to do with how I look. And because of my life experiences. So that was really the rise in the feminine for me.
Wow. Yay. That's awesome. As they do in New York. That's what we've had be doing on clicking on Zoom. That's beautiful. That's what a gift, the Holy Grail through self-reflection. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
So what would the world look like to you, Ali, if the feminine had risen?
Yeah. Wow. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? And again, it's not about, as all feminists know, it's not about, putting the men aside and making them our whipping tree. We're asking for equality here. So I feel like it would be total autonomy over our body. It would be a celebration of all the rites of passages from birth to menstruation to menopause, and everything in between. And then it would be, for our male counterparts to be in celebration and honor of that as well, to understand that the feminine in all of us is so important, including our men, that nurturing feminine side in our men, that they know how important it is too. So that we celebrate the nurturing, the kind, the power, the strength of the feminine in all of us. And I think that the world would be a much peaceful place.
I agree. Yay. Thank you for sharing your heart, your soul, and thanks for having this conversation, which has been very magical and very profound and very sacred.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions. That was just such a great, it was so nice to talk with you and talk about the depth of things like that. It was really, really lovely.
Aw, that's pretty nice, seeing as you guys have a full-time job as podcast hosts and interviewing people.
Oh, we don't normally go this deep though, so that was really nice.
Yeah, well, that's just the juicy kind of Mullumbimby vibe we've got going, Well, that's kind of she-births.
Yeah, that's good.
That.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No. Yeah, thank you. I as I say, I love your Instagram, the posts that you do, and just there's been so many that I've saved and just gone, oh, I love this. My niece gave birth about 8 months ago, and I was sending her posts, but she was pregnant. She goes, I'm already following She Births. I love She Births. So yeah, no, I love what you're doing. I love it. It's more of that, please, across the world as well.
Well, thank you.
I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the She Births Show. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you would like to hear more of. You can find me and my team of amazing doulas and educators at shebirths.com and our awesome community on Instagram and Facebook. Within any good app store, you can download our free pregnancy guide via She Births, 2 separate words and plural, as well as access our range of online courses. Remember, when it comes to having a better birth, an easier transition into parenthood, your education is your empowerment. Don't forget to check out the catalogue of previous podcasts, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show.